but firmly massage it, and we're live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to another action-packed episode of Wildcards. That was our lovely theme song that assures you, gentle viewers, gentle listeners, that this is a high-quality podcast. Only the very finest, ethically sourced, farm-to-table geeky conversations for your podcast listening pleasure. And here today, your geeky conversation sommelier, your tour guide, as it were, on the love boat that is the Wildcards podcast, Mr. Ross Watson. How you doing, sir?
Wow, I am stunned by the quality of that introduction. That is some serious introduction right there. I love it. It's like I have my own hype man.
You're like the Gavin McLeod of this podcast, sir. You're steering that ship.
Ayatollah of rock and rolla. No, that's Jacob. That's definitely Jacob.
And we have Jacob Blackman, freelance illustrator and the most handsome man in Norman, Oklahoma. Jacob, how are you doing this evening?
I'm feeling good.
All right. And hey, we have the audience, folks. Say hi in the comments. Good to see you. Hey, Grom Maltak is there. Nice to play live again instead of reruns. Grom, it is so good to see you. Thanks for popping in. So we were talking about, as we approach the spooky month, just a few short days away, horror, specifically sci-fi horror. And in Ross's educated opinion, Savage Worlds is an excellent system to emulate that genre. Ross, can you tell us why?
Well, generally speaking, when you're talking about horror, you want the rules to kind of just get out of the way, because the real horror is not in the mechanics. The real horror is in the immersion at the table. So Savage Worlds is a great system for running horror games because the rules do a very good job of just kind of getting out of the way and letting you get into the meat of the scary stuff, as it were. And frankly, most scary stuff is best when you kind of leave it up to the players' imaginations, the other people's imaginations. Kind of like the shark in Jaws. It's a lot scarier until you see the shark.
That's fair. Yeah, it's like the first Alien movie. You never see it till the very end. Mm-hmm. Some bits and pieces, like the older lady in The Graduate. It just the effect is enhanced when you just see that one scene with them. No one knows what I'm talking about. Never mind. Anyway, so
sorry, yeah. That's one movie I have not added to my oeuvre.
You haven't seen The Graduate?
No.
It's a great sci-fi horror film. You should check it out when you have a chance.
Is it a sci-fi horror movie?
No. Not at all. No.
But I have to agree that Savage Worlds is a very decent system for doing horror in general, because Savage Worlds, in my personal opinion, is one of the best systems that emulates people playing normal people.
That's a good point.
And one of the best ways to get horror into your game is to not have your people be superheroes or have access to powers like they do in most other games. It's really difficult to do horror in a superhero game because your players are superheroes. They can rely on their powers to pretty much overcome anything. Similarly, it's hard to get horror happening in a fantasy game unless you're incredibly low level. And even then, still, you've got access to magic to overcome fear effects, or, heaven forbid, you're a paladin, you're immune to fear.
That's all mechanic stuff, though, too, Jacob.
I know, but sometimes there is a fear mechanic in place in a game that really does help with the setting. Let's take a new game, Daggerheart, for instance, which has a fear mechanic in place that is designed to work cinematically along with the game. Now, that's not Savage Worlds, which, like I said, is best at emulating normal people, and so the aspect of horror that they can feel is much more intense.
Well, I largely agree with you. But I have, in my own personal experience, this is obviously just anecdotal, but in my own personal experience, I have encountered and ran pretty fun superhero horror things. There are great Halloween themed villains in a lot of superhero products. For example, Batman's Rogues Gallery is chock a block full of horrifying people. So, I mean, you can say that the superpowers make it more difficult. And I suppose in a broad sense that is true, but it is certainly achievable. And I think it's important to point that out.
Yeah, actually, Jacob did some art for me. I did a DC Zombies or Red Capes inspired adventure years and years ago. I think you did art for that one. Well, that's, that was an adventure I worked on over 10 years ago. It's before I had a kid, so it's all kind of fuzzy. But I would agree you can do horror in the superhero genre. I mean, certainly there's a lot of people doing it these days. Russ, tell me about some horror games you run in Savage World, specifically sci-fi horror. Kind of get us back on track.
Okay, sure. So I have a cyberpunk setting that I've been messing around with for decades at this point, and again, I'm going to kind of shy away from mechanics for the most part, but in a cyberpunk type setting, which is technically part of sci-fi, you have the creeping horror of what is no longer human. That line of, am I human or am I not human anymore? And the way I did it in that game was an AI had been implanting people without their knowledge with nanites that were actually turning their bones and their organs into a robotic platform, basically to operate them as drones. And when they got found out, they would horrifically sort of split open to reveal the blood-soaked machinery within to attack. It was gory, shocking, and with the acceptable use of adjectives and description, it was pretty scary for my players. They found themselves going, "Oh my God, we have to do something about this," which is the right kind of reaction you want to get.
That is a pretty cool concept. I kind of wish I was in that game. That's pretty awesome. I have to admit, usually when I delve into sci-fi horror, I tend to lean more towards the Aliens model with the, what monsters in the dark, and it's more action horror than straight sci-fi horror. But I think Aliens is a really good model for that. Although, I mean, there's in terms of sci-fi. Go ahead.
I was to say, Event Horizon is a good touchstone for if you want to go more monstrous, or more religious even themed than Aliens. But space is big, and there's lots of stuff, Lovecraftian cosmic beings living in the void between stars. That's a pretty scary idea.
There was a comic a few years ago. I wish it hadn't gotten canceled, but it's called The Outer Dark, and it's kind of a Star Trek XP with several notable changes. One being that there were horrible, terrible things out there in space, like mythos creatures you had to deal with, and their warp drives were powered by binding ancient gods into their engines.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, and every boarding action you had to have the ship exorcist and the ship mages, and it was a cool idea. It didn't really take off, but I loved it. Hey, Grom is weighing in. Grom says, action horror is my favorite horror style to GM, possibly because it's easier to get the players in the mood to shoot monsters than to run from them. That's cool.
Yeah, evoking horror at a game table is not easy. And it requires buy-in from the players. The players kind of have to show up with the idea, I want to be scared and I'm going to participate in this. If you have a far more casual gaming group that just are like, yeah, I'm going to play whatever, or if people are just kind of not really into the horror thing, it is easier, as Grom pointed out, to say, okay, we're gonna switch gears. Rather than call a halt to this, we're just gonna shift our focus a little bit towards the action side. And not for nothing, Aliens, the movie, is a fantastic action film, but is also very scary.
Yeah, they do a good job of melding the two things. I mean, there's a lot of it's a losing battle. It's the Alamo, but they managed to get out at the end. Jacob, you've run a lot of games in your time. Do you have a particular sci-fi horror game you run you can tell us about?
When my group has done horror in the past, there is a fun little game we like to play called It Came from the Late, Late, Late Show.
I know that one.
This is, for those who are not familiar with it, this is a game where you are supposed to be making schlock B-grade horror movies. Your characters are the actors in the films. And so you have an actor, and you can take them from one scenario, meaning one movie, to another.
It's got a meta level to it.
Yeah. So when you get a new role in a film, or what the session that you're doing, you get new skills that you can add on to your actor's existing skills. So it is a really fun game. I really enjoy it. If you can hunt down a copy, I highly recommend it. But that is our general choice of game to play horror in, because it has a really fun series of mechanics of how the horror monsters work, trying to figure out what's going on, because to some degree horror is also mystery.
Absolutely.
What does the creature want? How do we stop it? That sort of thing.
Those are the beats. Those are absolutely beats. What does it want? How do we stop it? Those are great. And the mystery part, if I may, I'd like to jump in here. I actually ran a session of my Star Wars game recently where we encountered a derelict ship, and I went all out. I was like, you come on board and it's flooded up to your knees, and the lights are out, and there's just like little sparks coming down from the ceiling every so often to light things up. And there were Dianegas in the water, those little one-eyed guys that pop up in the Death Star. Yeah. And everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on? And it's, the twist was the Dianegas were just food for the actual monster that had got released when the ship had kind of, gone adrift. But it's that mystery part. Like I intentionally set up the ship with the water being deep enough to conceal things, and the lights being out and the sparks kind of making things difficult to see, because that mystery element you mentioned, Jacob. It's important to keep the players guessing, to not give them all the information right away, because the players' minds will come up with something far scarier than any of us would be able to create or describe or project during a game. So I highly recommend using that mystery angle as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. But yeah, the potential for sci-fi horror is also as varied as science fiction itself, because when we're talking sci-fi, it's like, what kind of sci-fi are we talking about? Are we talking about space opera? Are we talking about contemporary Earth that has an encounter with something beyond our world? Are we talking about something near future where a new technology exists that doesn't currently exist, and it's exploring some extrapolation of human psyche? But just like science fiction is incredibly varied, science fiction horror can be incredibly varied. A lot of science fiction horror usually revolves around people encountering some alien thing and having to deal with it in one way or another, trying to either avoid it, trying to beat it, trying to make it go away, whatever. But how that happens can be how the horror is separated from each other, because much like Alien, that's sci-fi slasher horror or survival horror, where you're trying to survive the event. Alternatively, there's alien abduction horror, where the point is you and the other players have been abducted by aliens. Maybe now you're trying to escape or figure out what was done to you, or prevent the aliens from coming back and getting you again.
Yeah, and you made a really good point earlier when you talked about like what they want and how to defeat them as the main beats, because there can be a lot of horror that you can inject just by kind of establishing the stakes of what does the monster or the alien or the slasher, whoever it is, what do they want? And if you can define that in the players' minds to a degree where if you come up with a goal for them that is absolutely horrifying, like the alien, the xenomorphs and alien, they want to lay their eggs in your chest and then the egg will explode out of your rib cage. Yeah. Nobody wants that. That's scary. And finding out that is what they want is like a big part of like how horrible that film actually is. Mm-hmm. So if you that's I would say like number one step is figure out what the antagonist wants and figure out a way to deliver that information to the players early. Somewhere in the first third, second third.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to pimp something real fast, if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
Sure. It's your show.
And well, it's your show, Ross, but
oh no, it's our show. It's really our show.
And actually, I brainstormed this with you at the dog park, Raiders of the Ghost Zone. Some beautiful Stormcloak out there as the cover. This is one of my favorite subjects for sci-fi horror is shipwrecks or ghost ships, and this is a starship graveyard that you can explore. And there's cults, there's rumors of dark magic happening, and there's pirates, and it's a lot of spooky characters crawling through dark and hard hallways trying to figure out what's going on. So
I love it. Rogue Trader, I created a type of Sargasso Sea kind of area with just tons of derelict ships in a sort of weird orbit around this dying star, and it's crawling with pirates and zombies in suits, spacesuits trying to kill you. So yeah, that kind of idea is perfect. I'm a big fan.
Absolutely.
Space zombies are fun.
Can be.
They can be. Yeah. So go ahead.
I did think of something else there briefly. When you were talking about like space has its own kind of feel, and you can take any kind of common horror story and actually put it in space. There's a really good scary movie called Below, 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 which is a ghost story on a submarine. And you can just as easily take that submarine and put it in space, make it a spaceship, and have a ghost story on a spaceship that can be just, absolutely scary. I mean, Event Horizon, to some extent, is a haunted house in space.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Underwater?
Yes. Yeah.
That is absolutely sci-fi horror. It's not in space.
But it's underwater. Yeah.
Underwater.
Yeah. Deep Star 6, another good
Deep Star
example.
6, yeah, absolutely. There were so many underwater films that came out back to back with each other because I think someone was shipping around the Abyss script at the time. But yeah, there was that. There was Deep Star 6, Leviathan. That was another one.
Guilty pleasure, Deep Rising.
Oh yeah,
love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Life Force.
Oh God, how can I forget this? The naked space vampires.
Yeah, naked French space vampires. That Life Force is a cinematic tour de force.
Let's not forget Leprechaun 4, where Leprechaun goes to space. Well, I sense a lack of enthusiasm there, Jacob. What?
The Leprechaun movies are ridiculous.
Guilty pleasure.
But honestly, I liked the first one because I like the mythology, and pretty much after the first one, off the rails.
Okay, I'm not talking about Leprechaun. A guilty pleasure that I think is worthwhile is Jason X, where he goes also in space.
Yes. I especially enjoyed that one because they established he's a mutant. He has he super regenerates. He's like Wolverine. You can't kill him.
Watch? There was a Walter Koenig, Bruce Campbell movie called Moontrap.
Yeah,
no, I remember that one.
Yeah, 1989. Bruce Campbell and Walter Koenig get the last surviving Saturn V rocket and go to the moon after they discovered a derelict spaceship. The space shuttle Camelot discovers a derelict spaceship orbiting Earth that's got a mummified human remains that is thousands of years old. So they go to the moon, find an old ancient astronaut base. They have to fight off. It's very silly, but
Yeah,
Apollo 18 was kind of like that.
yeah. It's basically the enemy in that is a species of mechanoids who like using humans as parts. They pretty much rekindled that idea with the movie Virus. But yeah, there are tons of really good science fiction horror films that are out there, depending on what your flavor is. If you like secret conspiracies, there's the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What was there was something that Invasion of the Body Snatchers was based on.
Odd People.
Body Snatchers was Pod People. I'm trying to think of what was the manta ray creatures on people's backs.
Oh Lord. Well, there's there's a lot of options out there. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ross, you're one of the key developers, or you're one of the guys developing Savage Rips, right?
Not anymore, but I was in the beginning. Yes.
Back in the day. Would you? I mean, there's a lot of horrific things inside of Rifts.
True.
Would you consider that a sci-fi horror setting, or at least elements of it?
It can be. It's like one of the things that's kind of wild about Rifts as a setting is it's so gonzo. It's just over the top, right? Like every little thing is over the top. But that doesn't mean it can't be multiple things, because each part of Rift's Earth has kind of its own theme, its own tropes, its own thing going on. In North America specifically, there are some really cool bits that you can do for horror. And one of the things I like to do when I was running Rifts and I wanted to introduce a little bit of horror is I would introduce this idea of a Skelebot graveyard. So Skelebots are these sort of disposable robot warriors that the Coalition sends out, like the Nazis basically, sends out to destroy DBs and magic users, things like that, because they're just robots that look kind of like skeletons. But it's not uncommon to come across a battle site and find a whole bunch of destroyed Skelebots. And so what I did with my players is I actually had one of these battlefields that they came across, and they were like, "Oh, well, let's go check it out." And they're walking around, they're looking at things, and I'm just kind of implying and hinting and describing, like, "Oh, you see something out of the corner of your eye," or you hear like a grinding servo. And it wasn't until they got to the middle of this football field size graveyard of Skelebots that some of them started to get up, and they were like, "Oh shit, it's an ambush," because the Skelebots, being robots that kind of look like skeletons, can just sort of lie on the ground and look destroyed. But they can just get up and knife you right in the face with a vibroblade or whatever when you're right on top of them. And kind of like the Terminator, you can't reason with them, and it absolutely will not stop until you're dead. So it even just a kind of a jump scare moments can happen in any sci-fi setting if you're creative.
That's fair. And Ground weighs in and says, "No reason to feel guilty about liking any of these movies. They're hot, high heart, but they are fun." That's fair. I like to embrace the cheese. Puppet Masters with Donald Sutherland. Set the Manta Ray.
Oh, that's the one.
That's it. The Puppet Masters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
But Donald Sutherland was in both of them.
He is a versatile actor. He works a lot, or he did.
Mm-hmm.
Used to. Yeah.
And he's really good at, winning and framing.
Surprisingly, his son Kiefer is actually really good in a lot of horror movies as well.
Oh, yeah.
Dark City and Flatliners would be the two I would recommend. Not obviously, Lost Boys.
Yeah. Well, that's more just general horror.
Yeah, he was really good in it.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play in a vampire game that felt like Lost Boys. Although I guess it'd be more of a hunter's game.
Yeah.
See, you mentioned Life Force. There's not enough space vampire stories. Honestly, I'm 100% serious. Like, if you took the plot of Abigail just from last year, and put that in space, that would be kind of rad.
Yeah, I can't argue. I'm actually working on a setting right now that has a space vampire planet
You know,
So,
that's actually one of the big tricks that a DM can do with horror is you can take any horror story that you are a big fan of and just change a couple things, like the setting. You know, take Abigail out of a modern city and put it on a starship, and that one little thing can actually be like a chain reaction of context that gets your players in a space where they're not thinking about something that they've seen or know really well, and instead they're like kind of just rediscovering it or finding it new for the first time, which is really good for getting them scared.
Yeah.
well, I mean, tropes are tropes because they work. People like them. They have buy-in. And if you can reintroduce it in a fresh way, you can kind of, get back to what they looked about in the first place in a different context. Like what I'm trying to do with my vampire planet that I've been calling Space Ravenloft.
Oh, that's so cool. Or, follow the House of Usher in space.
Whee! That's not a bad idea. I would say The Thing in space, but I think that's pretty close to a lot of other movies. Although,
Well, The Thing is just good sci-fi horror.
yeah,
The Thing is supposed to be an encounter with a Shoggoth.
well, yeah, you could put that on the moon base, put that on the space station.
Yeah.
Listen, Ben Grimm is from Yancey Street in New York City, and he's very offended right now.
Not that thing. Different thing.
Well, you mean the one that's just a hand?
Not that thing either.
It's just one thing after another with you, Jacob.
It is. One thing leads to another.
Oh, there you go.
So if Ben Grimm, if the Fantastic Four was invented today, if Stan Lee was a Gen Z guy, would they call him Kid Rock?
No, God,
Oh,
I hope not.
Lord.
Jesus.
Because Stan was pretty cheesy, and he liked the pop culture references.
He did. That's a true fact. That's a true fact. Because he was a man of culture.
He was a man of pop culture.
Indeed.
And they're going to have a hologram of Stan Lee at Comic-Con next year.
I think Star Trek did something wild with holograms that was like a horror movie. Like they were being hunted by the Hirogen, if not, like the Hirogen were using sentient holograms as like a training ground, and that would be a pretty freaky game in a sci-fi setting. If the big twist, the reveal, about halfway through the game is that the players are like, "Oh shit, we're holograms and we're in a simulation of being hunted," that would be pretty great.
That's definitely some horror. That's a big reveal. That's a Bruce Willis. I've been dead the whole movie kind of revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. But yeah, no, they're gonna have it's an AI driven Stan Lee hologram. So it's like an episode of Black Mirror, really.
Black Mirror is a very fertile ground for sci-fi horror. Actually, I do strongly recommend it for anybody who wants to do some sci-fi horror. Go watch some Black Mirror.
Well, I actually remember they had an episode where, and this probably isn't a role playing concept, but this woman dies. Sorry, this woman's husband dies, and he didn't tell her, but he had some deal worked out before he died where if he died young, it's like a life insurance thing. The company has scanned his personality, put it into a lifelike android, and delivers it, to her shortly after his death so that, she can grieve with a companion. And it's horrifying and freaky in a modern Twilight Zone kind of way. And she exiles it to the attic where it can, play with her daughter, but she never wants to see it kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, having Stan Lee had some, I know he's a corporate icon. I know he's the face of Marvel, but having an AI presenting a simulacrum of his personality interact with fans, and I know how often AI can go horribly wrong. Just dabbling with it occasionally. You just kind of picture this Stan Lee, this Stan Lee AI hologram, and Comic-Con just stopping and smoking a cigarette and sitting down. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you people? This was a fun idea 40 years ago. What's
Do you want Skynet? Because this is how you get Skynet.
Yeah. So hey, sci-fi horror settings for Savage Worlds that are not my little Raiders of the Ghost Zone mini setting. Last Parsec, we've had that guy on to talk about. That was fun.
Yep.
The Lost Colony.
Daryl Hardy was the guy we had on.
Daryl Hardy.
Lost Colony is actually more horror than Last Parsec. Last Parsec is kind of generic sci-fi.
Okay.
Lost Colony is more horror focused, more fear focused, because it's essentially a spinoff of Deadlands.
Yeah.
So fear and the effects of fear are actually more important in Lost Colony.
Fair enough. Can you think of any others?
Off the top of my head, I don't. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist. And really, the value of I think a show like this is not necessarily to go tell you what to buy, but to tell you ways you can create your own. And that's what I would encourage anyone listening to this show to do, would be to take some of the thoughts and ideas that we've expressed here, and if any of them inspire you, go out there and make something cool. If not for your players, then what the hell, do it for the game system of your choice.
That's fair. You know what I've always wanted to do? I always thought a Vampire Kingdoms campaign, just a one-shot in riffs, would be awesome.
Can be, definitely. The vampire, the idea of an entire nation that is filled with nothing but horrible vampires is pretty scary. You can do a lot with that.
Yeah, that would be a great setting for kind of what you want to do with Lost Boys, only you pretty much make the Lost Boys like the revolutionaries.
Well, they could be the Lost Glitter Boys, which would really be scary.
Yeah.
That's more scary for the vampires at that point.
No, Rift vampires don't give a crap about Glitter Boys. They care about sunlight and running water and wood. They also worry about wood, but that's it.
Which is why they enjoy living in the middle of the Mexican desert.
Yes.
Because lack of those things.
Generally speaking, yes.
Sonoran Desert has a lot of sunshine, but yeah.
That's why they only come up at night.
That's fair. Yeah, when I lived there, that's what I did too. It's really hot.
Are you a vampire? Are you actually a vampire, Mike? Is that what's going on here?
I cast a reflection. I swear. I'm not sexy enough to be a vampire.
Just off the cuff though, like let's say you are like the crew of a free trader or Millennium Falcon or whatever, and you get a hail, and these two guys come aboard and they say, hey, we're the Frog Brothers, we're hunting a vampire, we need your help. That's a really good start.
Yeah. I've got to say, Star Wars has kind of become this. It sort of is sci-fi. I mean, there's some years
space fantasy.
Yeah, it's space fantasy, and some years the only big releases you get in that genre are Star Wars related. And I mean, Star Wars is very flexible. It does mainly action, but they've also done political intrigue with it. They've done heist movies. One thing they've never really done outside of the novels, though, is horror. And I mean, there have been a couple different times they've done zombies in the expanded universe. It seemed like that could be a fun way to do it. So, just an idea.
There's plenty of potential in any established setting or one of your own creation to go and do horror. Just find something fun that you like as a horror movie. Nightmare on Elm Street could be just fine on a spaceship.
The Borg,
right? Great.
Having your body taken over by a hive mind entity, that itself is an element of horror.
I mean, just the after effects on Jean-Luc Picard. Holy shit!
Yeah, everything. Think about all the PTSD that Jean-Luc has had ever since Locutus of Borg happened.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Poor Brad Boimler. He was only in compromise.
Excretus support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, bud.
I thought you were off your box.
Give me a few minutes. Oh, well, hey, is that a show, guys?
Yeah. Other than my recommendation of you should all be watching Alien Earth now that it
Alien Earth. Tell us about Alien Earth, Jacob.
Alien Earth, the non-spoiler review. Alien Earth takes place a couple of years before the original Alien film.
On Mars.
No, on Earth.
Hence the title.
Yes. You find out pretty much episode 1. It involves a ship that has been out in space for like the last 70 years collecting all sorts of dangerous alien life forms for scientific study on various different planets. and it crash lands in the middle of a city on Earth. Go.
Nice. I dig it.
Imagine what would happen if like a dozen of the most dangerous creatures from across the darkest planets of the galaxy got released onto Earth.
That's a hell of a pitch for a role playing game, actually.
And I especially love this because yes, one of the creatures is a xenomorph. That's not all.
Oh, really?
There are entirely new dangerous alien species in this, and over the course of the show you find out that they're a lot more smart than they look.
So, fantastic.
So without getting too many spoilers, it sounds like you're a fan.
Oh yeah, I loved this series. I had been getting really tired of what they'd been doing with recent Alien films. I did not like Prometheus. I did not like Alien Revenant because making xenomorphs the creation of an android from Earth.
Yeah, that's dumb.
No. That ship that they found on LV-426 was thousands of years old. Those things existed long ago.
It's almost like Ridley Scott doesn't know his own work.
Exactly.
Huh, weird.
So no, I don't care if Ridley Scott that made them. Those do not exist in my Alien oeuvre. Pretty much anything after the second Aliens film, I have been disappointed with. This is the first thing that's come across in the Alien franchise that I've loved in a long time.
Well, I'll have to check it out. That's a strong recommendation.
All right, I'll check it out too, and that's available on Hulu. So.
Mm-hmm.
Something to check out.
Which I realize a lot of people are boycotting right now, but yo ho ho.
The Band Podcast and Wildcards does not encourage piracy, and Jacob's views do not necessarily represent that of management.
They don't not necessarily represent it either.
Well, hey, on that happy note, perhaps we should where Comcast severs my connection. Any closing thoughts, Russ?
Just that sci-fi horror is really cool, and I'm really glad to have been a part of this discussion because it has reawakened my interest in that genre.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be honest, I love horror movies, but of horror movies, my favorite are sci-fi horror movies because Alien, The Thing, the Riddick films, Life Force, The Substance. These are amazing movies. I recommend the majority of them. Yeah.
No, but not Life Force, huh?
I recommend Life Force. Everyone should see Life Force. It is a good movie.
There's a lot to like in Life Force.
Just have to. There's one scene where I really, really pity the actress who had to walk naked and barefoot over shattered glass. Because you see the scene happen where she breaks the glass and then has to walk over a lawn that is covered in shattered glass, and I'm just going, oh.
Hollywood magic, my friend. Hollywood magic.
Fair enough. Well, hey, folks, if you like Wildcards, we do this every once in a while. Join us on the BAMP podcast on Facebook or on Blue Sky, and you can get updates from when we're going to be on the show next time.
Check out the Savage Worlds Horror Companion for ideas and setting rules and some really cool ways to spice up your game with horror mechanics.
Yep. Yeah, that's my son in the blur behind trying to say hi to you guys. So,
hi, Connor.
Hey.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up,
Connor.
and we will see you next time on Wild Cards.